Good afternoon. Parliament is resumed. Call on the Honourable Deputy Premier to grace us with prayers.
Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech Thee so as to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations, for the glory of Thy name, and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign, King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially, we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Parliament, the Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of Cabinet, ex officio members, members of the Parliament, the Chief Justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for Thy great namesake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make His face shine upon us, and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of His countenance upon us, and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Report of the Standing Finance Committee on the Appropriation Financial Years 2024 and 2025 Bill 2023. To be laid on the table by the Chair of the Standing Finance Committee, the Honourable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development.
Madam Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable Parliament the report for the Standing Finance Committee of the Appropriation Financial Years 2024-2025 Bill 2023.
So ordered. Madam Premier, you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with 67(4) of the Standing Finance Committee, they agreed that I submit to this Honourable Parliament its report and minutes of its deliberation with respect to the Appropriation Financial Years 2024-2025 Bill 2023. The committee had its first meeting, Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday, the 13th of December, and it also met yesterday when its detailed deliberations were concluded. The committee also met this morning, Mr. Speaker, to finalize and approve its report, which has just been tabled. The committee considered the approved appropriations for 24 and 25 budget contained in the bill, and it also agreed various changes to the bill during its meetings. Mr. Speaker, as the proceedings in the Finance Committee was public, I would not make any further elucidations at this point, and I would just to say that the committee agreed that the report which was just laid would be the report of the Standing Business Committee for the Appropriation Financial Years 24 and 25, 23. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Madam Premier. Thank you.
Report of the Standing Business Committee. First meeting of the 2023-2024 session of the Cayman Islands Parliament.
Madam Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Parliament the report of the Standing Business Committee for the meetings of 23rd year and 24th session of the Cayman Islands Parliament.
So ordered. Madam Premier, do you wish to speak thereto?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Parliament Management Commission, Cayman Islands, Annual Report 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education and District Administration and Lands.
Madam Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable Parliament the Parliament Management Commission of the Cayman Islands, its annual report for 2022.
Thank you, Madam Premier. Would you like to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Thank you.
Ministry of the District Administration and Lands, Cayman Islands Government Annual Report and Financial Statements for the year ended 31st December 2022 to 30th April 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier.
Madam Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable Parliament the annual report and financial statements for the Minister of District Administrations for the year 2023.
So ordered. Madam Premier, do you wish to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Sister Islands Affordable Housing Development Corporation Annual Report for the year ended 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier.
Madam Premier.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of the Honourable Parliament the Sister Islands Affordable Housing Development Corporation Annual Report for the year ended the 31st of December 2022.
So ordered. Madam Premier, would you like to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
2022 Annual Report, Water Authority, Cayman, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier.
Madam Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable Parliament the 2022 Annual Report for the Water Authority, Cayman.
So ordered. Madam Premier, would you like to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Ministry of Financial Services and Commerce, Cayman Islands Government, 2021 Annual Report, 1 January 2021 to 31 December 2021, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier, Minister of Financial Services and Commerce.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2021 Annual Report of the Ministry of Financial Services and Commerce, covering the period of 1 January 2021 to 31st December 2021.
So ordered. Would you like to speak thereto?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Minister of Financial Services and Commerce, Cayman Islands Government, 2022 Annual Report, 1st January 2022 to 31st December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report of the Ministry of Financial Services and Commerce for the period of 1 January 2022 to the 31st of December 2022.
So ordered. Would you like to speak thereto?
Only to say thank you to the Ministry for all their hard work over both periods.
Very well.
Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands Annual Report 2022, Excellence and Innovation in Aviation Regulation, fiscal year ended 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table the Honourable House Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands for the fiscal year ended 31 December 2022.
So ordered. Would you like to speak thereto?
Only briefly to thank the authority for their great work.
Very well.
Cayman Maritime, Annual Report, January to December 2022. Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands, MACI, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
I rise to beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report for the period of January to December 2022 of the Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Only to thank the authority for their incredible work.
Very well.
Cayman Islands Monetary Authority 25th Anniversary Annual Report 2022 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Annual Report 2022 of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, which signifies their 25th anniversary.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Just to congratulate the Monetary Authority on the incredible milestone of 25 years in operation.
Very well.
Auditors Oversight Authority, Cayman Islands, Annual Report for the year ended 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Annual Report for the year ended 31 December 2022 for the Auditors Oversight Authority.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Cayman Islands Stock Exchange, Report for the fiscal year ending 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report for the fiscal year ended 31 December 2022, the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Only to thank the Stock Exchange for their incredible work. The amount of assets that they have under management is truly staggering. Thank you.
Very well.
Government of the Cayman Islands, Children and Youth Services, CAYS Foundation, Annual Report for the year ended 31 December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Annual Report for the year ended 31 December 2022 of the Children and Youth Services Foundation.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Only to thank the Foundation for their incredible work with at-risk children.
Very well.
Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands, follow-up on PAC Recommendations 2023, Report 1, March 2023, and report of the Standing Public Finance Committee on the report of the Office of the Auditor General, follow-up on past PAC Recommendations 2023, Report 1, March 2023, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable Parliament a report of the Office of the Auditor General, Cayman Islands, follow-up on past Public Accounts Committee Recommendations 2023, Report 1, March of 2023, together with the report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Office of the Auditor General, follow-up on past Public Accounts Committee Recommendations 2023, Report 1 of March 2023.
So ordered. Those are two separate reports.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to speak there too?
No, thank you, sir.
Very well.
Freedom of Information 2022 Annual Statistics Report, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman, the elected member for West Bay North.
The Honourable elected member from West Bay North. Honourable Deputy Premier, would you like to lay? It's just a matter of laying it on the table.
Mr. Speaker, it's been found. I beg to lay on the table of this Honorable House the 2022 Annual Statistics Report, Freedom of Information.
So ordered. Would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I didn't think so.
Cayman Islands Judiciary Annual Report 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of legal affairs.
Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Parliament the annual report for the Judicial Department for the relevant period ending December 2022.
So ordered. Honourable Attorney General, would you like to speak?
Mr. Speaker, just to say that the report itself is very self-explanatory, has some very interesting information spanning from the retirement of the former Chief Justice, Sir Anthony Smelly, the appointment of the current Chief Justice, Honourable Margaret Ramsey Hale, and the historical visit of the United Kingdom Privy Council, historical sitting here. And so I commend the report to honourable members of this House and the public in general. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honourable Attorney General.
Commission for Standards in Public Life, the 23rd report of the Commission for Standards in Public Life, 1 February 2022 to 31 July 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Governor, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service.
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 23rd report of the Commission for Standards in Public Life, 1st of February 2022 until the 31st of July 2022.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Mr. Speaker, only to thank the members of the Commission for their work and to invite members and the public to read the report.
Very well.
2022 Annual Report, Public Service Pensions Board, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Deputy Governor, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service.
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2022 Annual Report for the Public Service Pension Board.
So ordered. Would you like to speak there too?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just to thank the members of the Pension Board, Ms. Jewel Evers-Lindsay, the MD, and the Board of Directors for their outstanding performance and over the year, and to invite members of the public to read the report.
Thank you.
Statements by Honourable Ministers and Members of the Cabinet.
I have notice of a statement to be made by the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also have section 11.5. With your permission, I'll just do afterward. Thank you.
Fine.
Mr. Speaker, this statement is in regard of an award that were given to the public service pensioners for December as a one-time grant. Mr. Speaker, this year has been a challenging time on so many fronts. Just 1 week ago, I rose in this honourable Parliament to deliver the government's budget for 24-25. Today, after a hearty budget debate and Finance Committee, we have reported the resulted appropriation bill and will conclude the budget process for the upcoming fiscal year when we do the third reading later today. This, Mr. Speaker, has been a tremendous outcome. In recognition of this outcome, Mr. Speaker, I have to give thanks to Almighty God for seeing his country through a challenging time, and for the many blessings that he has graciously bestowed upon all of us. I thank my colleagues, ministers, and official members in the Cabinet for their stellar leadership in their respective area of responsibilities. I thank the civil service for their continued diligence in delivering the government's priorities, and in particular, the teams within the Ministry of Finance and the Parliament for supporting this process. Mr. Speaker, I also thank you, as immediately upon your assuming your seat, you so effectively presided over the process, and I thank the leader and other members of the opposition for demonstrating through their actions their commitment to putting our country first for the people of the Cayman Islands. It is this collaboration among all elected members of our Parliament that has made today's outcome possible. Mr. Speaker, this collaboration has also benefited many vulnerable persons across our community. The latest example of swift action taken by this government, and which, based upon the sentiments raised in the Parliament, one which I believe is fully supported by all of the members of Parliament here today, is to provide a one-time Christmas payment to all existing public service pensioners. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Deputy Governor mentioned it very briefly yesterday during his debate on the budget, but the announcement may have been lost in the debate. I would therefore like to offer further details at this time. Our government has approved a one-off Christmas payment in the amount of $250, which will be paid to all, not some, Mr. Speaker, but all persons receiving a public service pension regardless of their duration of service. I know that this token of appreciation will be welcome, particularly for those pensioners who may not have benefited from the other programs announced earlier this year. The Public Service Pension Board has confirmed receipt of the funds and is currently processing this payment, Mr. Speaker. As a result, all existing public service pensioners, just over 2,300 retirees, will now receive this payment within their bank accounts before Christmas. I wish to record my thanks to Mrs. Jewel Evans-Lindsay and her team within the Public Service Pension Board, and to the Honourable Deputy Governor, his Chief Officer, in particular, I would wish to name her out, Mrs. Gloria McFeel-Nixon, and their team within the portfolio of the Civil Service. To all public service retirees, we thank you for your historic contributions which have helped shape these beautiful islands, and I hope that this one-off Christmas payment of $250 will provide some respite over the holiday period. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with your permission, I'd like to move on to my section 11.5 as it relates to the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, as requested and as required by Section 11.6 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, I make this statement to members of the Honourable House with respect to exceptional circumstances that transactions were made with Cabinet's approval for the Ministry of Education for the period 16th of September to the 7th of December this year. Such transactions were approved pursuant to Section 11.5 of the PMFA. This statement provides details of the aforementioned transactions: EGA 87, EGA 4 Public Library Services. Mr. Speaker, the Cayman Islands government recently announced a one-time honorarium to be paid to each civil servant in December this year, in the amount of $1,500. After considering this honorarium, the Cayman Islands Public Library Services revealed a forecasted shortfall in personnel funding of approximately $25,000. Additionally, various health and safety repairs were identified over the last 3 months at various branches of this service, being the library services. In order to carry out these repairs, there was a need for an additional $65,000. Therefore, approval is required under Section 11.5 of the PMFA 2020 revision to increase EGA 4 public library services by $90,000, decrease EGA 1 policy advice, governance, and ministerial support services by the said sum of $90,000. EGA 10, education, early childhood, and support services. Mr. Speaker, when registration was completed for the new academic year of 23-24, the new students' registration far exceeded the previous years. Our new entrants increased by 15% when compared to the average of the last 3 academic years. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, educational material, increased costs associated with the one-to-one initiative, and an extension of support services were put in place to accommodate this increased school population. The costs associated with these were $1,056,000. Approval is being sought under Section 11.5 of the PMFA 2020 revision to increase EGA 10 education, early childhood, and support services by $1,056,000, decrease TP 93 public school grants and COVID-19 recovery program by $500,000, decrease OE 12 University of the West Indies membership levy by $556,000. CC 01 teaching of tertiary level professional and vocational programs. Mr. Speaker, UCCI is forecasting a deficit for 2023 due to a sharp increase in its operating expenses for 2023. The following factors have contributed to this forecasted deficit. Approved cost of living adjustment COLA for 2022 that was carried over in 2023. Increased utility costs, property and liability insurance premiums, and costs of janitorial services. Increased depreciation charges, costs associated with the implementation of critical recommendations that was made by the Internal Audit Service, increased staffing needs to deliver educational programs, audit recommendation to reclassify costs incurred for the implementation of the new student information system from a capital expense to an operational expense. Approval is therefore being sought under 11.5, Mr. Speaker, of the PMFA 2020 revision to increase CC01 teaching of tertiary level professional and vocational programs by $3,400,000 and decrease EI 46 University College of the Cayman Islands $3,400,000. EI 12 Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, within 2 weeks of the new school year, the chiller system at the Clifton Hunter High School malfunctioned. An entire school was without air conditioning. The chiller system is about 12 years old and has been declining in its efficiency. Due to the instability of the air, a few issues have developed. Excess moisture in the air has made the floors slippery when there are tiles or wooden floors. Carpeting has also developed a musky odor. The paper used to print the lessons is also moist, which adversely affects the performance of the printers and photocopying machine. Although there is routine maintenance of the chiller system, with a system-wide malfunction, its replacement is now critical, Mr. Speaker. The replacement cost is estimated at $800,000. However, due to a 10th-month delivery timeline for a new chiller, at this time, funding is only required to make a 50% deposit of $400,000. The carpet would also need to be replaced due to health and safety issues at a cost of $750,000. Approval is being sought under Section 11.5 of the PMFA Act 2020 revision to increase EI 12 Ministry of Education by $1,150,000 and decrease EI 161 submarine cable by $1,150,000. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the Honourable Minister responsible for infrastructure for graciously transferring these savings from its ministry to allow the deposit to be paid on the chiller at the Clifton Hunter High School. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for allowing me to explain these exceptional circumstances that have resulted in the supplementary appropriations being requested by the Minister of Education for the period of 16th September to 7th of December this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. I've also received notice of 3 statements to be made by the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Statement 1. Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement as to the circumstances and reasons why I, as Minister for Investment, Innovation and Social Development, had to request increases in expenditure in the 2023 budget under Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act. Mr. Speaker, the Needs Assessment Unit is the government's primary vehicle to distribute financial assistance to eligible Caymanian households. Approximately 2/3 of its recipients are persons over 65 years of age and persons with long-term disabilities, which prevent them from engaging in gainful employment. Smaller portion of the recipients are unemployed or underemployed, and low to no income families with dependent children. The financial support is given by the Needs Assessment Unit via Transfer Payment 41, which pays for bills such as rental housing, utilities, food, clothing, education, preschool fees, medical travel, and equipment. Included within the remit of the Needs Assessment Unit is ex gratia payments made to seafarers and veterans or their surviving spouse. TP 41 depleted at an accelerated rate for the following reasons: increased cost of living during the budget period, and in addition, unanticipated demands from the transfer of the tourism worker stipend from the Ministry of Border Control and Labor to the Needs Assessment Unit, which occurred in the latter part of 2022. As such, Mr. Speaker, in April 2023, Cabinet approved a supplementary funding by way of Section 11.5 of the Act to increase TP 41 by $5,250,000, though it was acknowledged that by August or September 2023, TP 41 could be exhausted and the Ministry would return once again to request supplementary funding so that TP 41 could be sustained. In August 2023, Cabinet approved a supplementary funding for the Needs Assessment Unit by way of Section 11.5 of the Act to increase TP 41 by $1,900,000 so that TP 41 could fund the immediate needs of the NEU and its clients. In October 2023, Cabinet approved supplementary funding for the Needs Assessment Unit by way of Section 11.5 of the Act to increase TP 41 by $3,250,000 and increase TP 47 ex gratia benefits to seafarers and vets by $390,000. The supplementary funding for the NEU was required for that to continue delivering their services. With the support of Cabinet, the Ministry increased the seafarers and veterans ex gratia payment and the amount for long-term financial assistance from $950 per month to $1,250 per month based on the financial needs of the recipients and the fact that these amounts have not increased for several years, yet the cost of living has increased. This increase was accounted for in the request to Cabinet in April 2023 and has led to a deficiency in TP 41. The supplementary funding was necessary and urgent to avoid disruption of essential services to at-risk Caymanians and clients of the NEU and taking into account the cost of living increases. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Investment, Innovation and Social Development received an increased appropriation in amounts, just to say this collectively, $5,250,000 in April 2023, CI $1,900,000 in August, and $3,250,000 in October to TP 41. In addition, the Ministry received an increase in appropriation in the amount of $390,000 to TP 47. Mr. Speaker, the aforementioned transactions satisfy the definition of exceptional circumstance given that the contributing economic factors were beyond the control of Cabinet, many of which could not have been reasonably anticipated at the enactment of the appropriation law for 2022. And the social impact in the case is not only significant, but necessary. Mr. Speaker, the transactions were approved by Cabinet for the Ministry during the 2023 period, did not cause any non-compliance with the principles of responsible financial management. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God continue to bless the Cayman Islands. Mr. Speaker, statement number 2. Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement as to the circumstances, the reason why I, as Minister for Investment, Innovation, and Social Development, requested funding the social development programs transferred from TP80, Support for Business Initiatives, under Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act. TP80, Support for Business Initiatives, was granted a $5 million supplementary appropriation by Finance Committee under Section 12 of the Public Management and Finance Act in March 2022 for the purpose of funding a business stipend program for small and micro businesses in subsectors of the tourism industry affected by the delayed return of sustainable tourism levels following border reopening and/or government-mandated COVID-19 suppression measures in the Cayman Islands. The business stipend program was administered by the Cayman Islands Business Development Center. The program closed on the 12th of December 2022, at which point all outstanding eligible grants were distributed shortly thereafter. Following closure of the program, TP80 was left with a balance of approximately $1.2 million, for which the Business Development Center only needed $100,000 to facilitate their departmental activities and functions for the rest of 2023. Accordingly, TP80 had a surplus of $1.1 million. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS, provides social work services to vulnerable persons in the community. The Children Act mandates that DCFS provide support to children in meeting basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, therapeutic services not only covered by Synoco, education, utilities, transportation, and other living expenses. The budget allocation for children in state care was underfunded in 2022, and to compensate, DCFS brought forward 2023 funding to offset a shortfall. As such, the ministry received a transfer of funding by way of Section 11.5 of the Act in the amount of $415,000 in August from TP80 to TP57 to provide funding for children who are under care orders and to support clients to access early childhood education. Mr. Speaker, due to the heightened cost of construction materials as well as projects costing more than initially estimated because of unforeseen damage discovered post-commencement of repair works, funding for the ministry's housing repair program was depleted in an accelerated fashion. Supplementary funding was requested to enable the HRA program and the R3 program collectively to address additional homes during the budget period. As such, the ministry received a transfer of funding by way of Section 11.5 of the Act in the amount of $550,000 in August from TP80 to TP60 housing repairs. Mr. Speaker, Keys has contracted a new manager and deputy manager who, with the support and the direction of the Keys Board, that's the Children and Youth Services Foundation, has created a new modern vision to enhance the services offered by Keys and to implement this vision over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. As part of the initial stage of the new vision of Keys, proposes to create a facility called the Workshop to provide training activities to the residents in care. Keys plan to convert existing space at the Bonaventure home in West Bay and renovate it without causing disruption to existing services and provide an immediate outcome to maximize the facility for the benefit of children in care. Additionally, Keys aims to modernize the IT system and computer equipment at both of its facilities in order to effectively utilize resources, swifter interaction, and communications necessary across the facilities. The current systems posing challenges for Keys to be able to be agile and efficient with service delivery. As such, the ministry received a transfer by way of Section 11.5 in the amount of $100,000 in August from TP80 to Keys to Children and Youth Services. Mr. Speaker, the aforementioned reallocation satisfied the definition of exceptional circumstances for the reason I have outlined. The transactions were approved by Cabinet for the ministry during the 2023 period. and did not cause any non-compliance with the principles of responsible financial management. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Statement 3, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make a statement as to the circumstances or reasons why I, as Minister for Investment, Innovation, and Social Development, requested transfer from TP80, Support for Business Initiatives, ITI 3, Digital Services Strategy, and EI 78, Equity Injection, under Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act to facilitate shortfalls and provide additional support in several areas. Mr. Speaker, in the 2022-23 budget period, TP60 housing repairs appropriation received a total of $750,000, broken in two allotments, $375,000 in 22 and 23 respectively, to benefit the HRA program. In June 2022, Cabinet granted approval for the 2023 budget appropriation to be brought forward from the 2022 financial year. By this action, the full $750,000 was made available to the program. In August 2023, Cabinet approved supplementary funding for TP80 in the amount of $550,000, which enabled the program to repair another round of applicant cases. The program has been working steadily to complete all required variations on existing projects and construction estimates on new projects. At the October 2023 meeting, the HRA Program Oversight Committee approved 12 more projects and also gave an approval for a 13th to proceed once funding became available to facilitate the work. These projects were high priority and include repairs for homes that have severe leaks, termite damage, and other significant issues that require immediate attention. As such, the Ministry received approval for supplementary funding in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Act to decrease TP80 by $75,000 and increase TP60 by $75,000. The increase of the funds allowed HRA to cover any overages in the estimated cost of the above repairs. It is noteworthy that the construction and/or renovation quite often incur additional costs as a result of unforeseen issues that are uncovered during the repair process. Consequently, it's important for these additional funds to be made available and beyond the estimated cost of the repairs, hence the request for additional funding. Mr. Speaker, in order to support a payment of $250 to seafarers and veterans over the holiday period, and to facilitate reinstatement of grandfathered-in financial assistance recipients, additional funding was required for both programs. As such, the Ministry received approval of supplementary funding in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Act to decrease ITI 3 Digital Services Strategy by $1,168,800 and increase TP41 by $650,550 and increase TP47 by $268,250. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Children and Family Services operates 4 residential facilities inclusive of Grand Cayman and the BRAC. These facilities provide 24/7 nursing care. This includes caring for children with special needs who are on court orders to state care, social development programs and service lines items for funds the department's annual programs and supports other community and clinical costs that support service delivery to clients. In order to facilitate the program, support services, hygiene and food supplies, and maintenance of care facilities until the end of the year, additional funding was required. As such, the Ministry also received approval for supplementary funding in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Act to increase ITI 2 social development programs and services in the amount of $250,000. Mr. Speaker, in order for the Department of Environmental Health to develop the St. Mary's Garden Cemetery on William Farrington Drive in West Bay, and the Ministry of Planning and Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure to repair the roof of Church of God Chapel, which can be used as an additional hurricane shelter in the District of West Bay, additional funding was needed for these projects. As such, the Ministry received approval for supplementary funding in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Act to decrease EI 78 equity injections by $395,000 and increase TP 76 assistance with infrastructure development in the amount of CI 300,000 and increase EI 30 cemetery vaults Grand Cayman in the amount of 95,000. Mr. Speaker, the aforementioned reallocation satisfy the definition of exceptional circumstances. For the reasons I've outlined, these transactions were approved by Cabinet for the Ministry during the 2023 financial period, did not cause any non-compliance with the principles of responsible financial management. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God bless the Cayman Islands.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Premier. I've also received notice from the Honorable Minister for Tourism and Ports of his intention to make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make a statement in accordance with Section 11.6 of the Public Management and Finance Act in relation to the Section 11.5 appropriation during the 2023 financial year. Mr. Speaker, EA 164 Central Scranton Park was increased by $300,000 in order to assist with the construction of a wishing well, demolition of a building, replacement of on-site signs, pond analysis, landscape architecture, retrofitting of an existing building, and the design of the Central Scranton Park. This increase was funded by a similar decrease in TP 67 Sports and Culture Tourism Programs Assistance. The appropriation TP 12 Tourism Scholarships was increased by $400,000 in order to assist with the shortfall, which is driven by an increase in demand, together with the increase in scholarship awards per student per annum up to $30,000. This brings the award in line with the Ministry of Education's scholarship award. This increase was funded by a similar decrease in TP67 Sports and Culture Tourism Program Assistance. Mr. Speaker, the concept designs for the Waterfront Tourism Experience Project require the securing of an additional adjoining piece of land that the Cabinet has approved to be leased. EA 159 Waterfront Tourism Experience was increased by $250,000 in order to assist with the lease of the parcel and to meet the needs of the design contract for 2023. This increase was funded by a similar decrease in TP 67 Sports and Culture Tourism Programs Assistance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I've also received notice from the Honorable Minister for Health, Wellness and Home Affairs of her intention to make two statements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for allowing me to bring to the attention of this Honourable Parliament the details of two appropriation changes which were approved by Cabinet from the Ministry of Health and Wellness in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 during the 2023 financial year. Mr. Speaker, Cabinet approved supplementary funding under Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act in the amount of $1.7 million in September 2023. This funding was to ensure that adequate capital funding is available for the completion of the Ponciana Rehabilitation Centre in fiscal year 2023. The Ponciana Rehabilitation Centre, formerly referred to as the Long-Term Residential Mental Health Facility, is being established to provide residents of the Cayman Islands with serious and persistent mental illness, with holistic care in a safe and secure environment, with the prime objective of integration back into society. The construction of the 50,000 plus gross square feet building will form part of the continuum of mental health services within the Cayman Islands, which aims to empower people to achieve optimal well-being. Mr. Speaker, the project has faced increased cost due to several factors, resulting in the initial estimated cost at the outline business case stage being increased from 16.2 million to a current projected capital cost to completion of 21.5 million CI. The original cost plan at the OBC stage was based on the description of the property as being to start standard residential specifications, while the final development has involved significant specialized specifications of constructions and fixtures and finishes, as well as being constructed to higher hurricane standards that would be expected for standard residential properties. The scope of works has also been increased, with the floor areas of the cottages being increased from 3,725 square feet to 3,948 square feet, and the main building from 19,216 square feet to 19,410 square feet. Significant changes to the site works have also been made, and in particular, the change from basic perimeter fencing to an underground perimeter detection system. These items, as well as an escalation in building costs resulting from increased building activity in the Cayman Islands, combined with supply chain issues and building material shortages due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other factors, are the primary drivers of the change orders that have increased the overall project costs. Mr. Speaker, there were also several other key changes to the project from the OBC stage. The OBC proposed the initial construction of 7 cottages and the addition of 2 cottages when demand required them. However, post the completion of the OBC, it was decided to construct all 9 cottages in the initial phase to benefit from cost savings and to minimize disruption to the health programs once the facility had opened. This change was approved by Cabinet in August of 2018. The completion timeline of the project has been affected by several factors. Initially, due to delays encountered with tender packages relating to enabling works, the main building works, and the cottages clusters, and latterly due to disruptions resulting from COVID-19. The various travel, shipping, and manufacturing disruptions resulted from COVID-19, and the subsequent lockdowns and social distancing restrictions since March 2020 had a detrimental impact on the construction industry, severely impacting both material supplies and labor. This extended the construction period to the project is currently awaiting final building control unit inspections to be concluded so that the facility can be handed over to the ministry. Mr. Speaker, the additional funding allocated under Section 11.5 of the PFMA is the expected balance to complete the facility and was reallocated from savings under Appropriation HES 1, Policy Advice and Ministerial Services to the Minister of Health and Wellness within the Ministry's 2023 budget allocations. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has also received approval under Section 11.5 of the PMFA in December 2023 of 100,000 to enable the Department of Environmental Health to carry out a second bulk waste campaign during December 2023 in line with the traditional cleanups of our people are accustomed to. Several representations were made to the DEH regarding holding another cleanup campaign which was approved from December 4th for 2 weeks only. An initial bulk waste campaign was carried out in May of this year, ahead of the hurricane season, in an effort to encourage residents to prepare their properties ahead of time, thereby reducing the amount of debris that could be generated by a severe weather system. Mr. Speaker, the additional funding allocated under Section 11.5 of the PMFA was reallocated from savings under appropriation TP 73, other health and cultural related programs within the Ministry's 2023 budget allocations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As required in accordance with Section 11.6 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, thank you for allowing me this second opportunity to bring to the attention of this Honourable Parliament details of 2 appropriation changes approved by Cabinet for the Ministry of Home Affairs in accordance to Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 in 2023. Mr. Speaker, I would like to report on the following approvals made by Cabinet. 1. Supplementary funding for the Cayman Island Cadet Corps. 2. Supplementary funding for the Bridge Foundation. Mr. Speaker, Cabinet approves supplementary funding pursuant to the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, Section 11.5, in the 2023 appropriations. The Ministry of Home Affairs, by increasing Output Group NGS 90, Cayman Islands Cadet Corps Committee in the amount of CI 75,000. This approval was for the supplementary funding in accordance with Section 11.5 of the PMFA to meet expenses incurred as a result of stipends for the essential volunteer staff within the Cadet Corps, which is facilitated through a purchase agreement between Cabinet and the Cayman Island Cadet Corps Committee. This was to increase NGS 90, Cayman Islands Cadet Corps Committee, in the amount of CI 75,000. Mr. Speaker, with very limited full-time staff, the Cadet Corps is dependent on volunteers for assistance with critical activities and supervision of cadets. Since 2016, there has been a significant growth in the number of cadets enrolled in the program. In this regard, the level of supervision required to ensure a safe and efficient delivery of cadet activities has also increased. However, Mr. Speaker, the purchase agreement for the allocation of volunteer stipends has remained at $25,000 since its implementation approximately 20 years ago. This allocation, Mr. Speaker, is no longer sufficient to both attract and maintain adequate levels of volunteer staff in light of government's policy to continuously grow the cadet corps in advance the strategic impact of the organization. Mr. Speaker, as required for the essential operations of the Cadet Corps and the management of increasing levels of cadets, Cabinet approved the supplementary funding as it is critically needed to ensure the cadets is able to meet costs associated with paying and retaining its volunteers for the remainder of 2023. As previously stated, Mr. Speaker, this request was made and approved pursuant to Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Bridge Foundation. The approval, Mr. Speaker, was the supplementary funding requested to transfer appropriations by reducing HAF 1, advice and support to the Minister of Home Affairs, in the amount of $100,000 to increasing TP 69, support for the Bridge Foundation, in the same amount of $100,000 operating expenditure in the 2023 appropriations. Mr. Speaker, the Bridge Foundation is a halfway house or substance recovery center for those seeking to remain or achieve sobriety from drug or alcohol abuse in a supportive residential facility. Substance recovery centers have a vital role in criminal justice and public health systems. For example, Mr. Speaker, they provide critical services in conjunction with key government agencies. Their function is interlinked with the service of judicial administration, His Majesty's Cayman Islands Prison Service, Department of Community Rehabilitation, and Department of Counseling Services, amongst others. Without the recovery centers, there would be a critical gap in services which would likely fall on government to fill. Mr. Speaker, this request was made in order for the Bridge Foundation to remain operational. Without the transfer of funding, the Bridge Foundation would have been unable to continue operations past April of 2023. Should the Bridge Foundation not be in operation, Mr. Speaker, there would be a significant public health and safety concern. The absence of this center could contribute to continued substance abuse and crime, which has secondary financial and social effects for government and the community. In order to meet the additional costs, Cabinet approved transfer of funds in the amount of $100,000 to TP69 support for the Bridge Foundation from HAF1 advice and support to the Minister of Home Affairs pursuant to Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision. Mr. Speaker, the proposed appropriation change is not expected to impact government's forecasted financial results for the 2023 financial year, as the appropriation change is merely a transfer of funds within the same operation expense appropriation category and do not increase overall planned expenditure. As previously stated, Mr. Speaker, all requests were made and approved pursuant to 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I have received notice also from the Minister for Planning, Agriculture, and other things of his intention to make 7 statements. But before people groan in here, most of them are mercifully short.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, statement on the reappropriation funds accordance with the Section 11.5 of the Public Management Finance Act for the Ministry projects budgeted in 23. Mr. Speaker, Cabinet approved the reappropriation of $1.325 million from EA16 designed for the construction of new civic center in Northward within the Ministerial Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, and Transport and Development, and the reappropriated included an increase in allocations to EA78, the Government Administration Building, an increase to allocation EA151 ramps and jetties, and an increase in allocation EA153 park upgrades. This approval will have no or had no impact on the government's forecast financial result and position for the 23 financial year, as this merely was a reallocation of the appropriation funds. Statement 2. Mr. Speaker, on December the 5th, 2023, pursuant of the Section 11.5 of the Public Management Finance Act, Cabinet approved $745,000 in supplementary funds to complete the work being done on a religious community gathering space to be used as an emergency shelter. This will see the increase of the transfer payment to TP76 for the infrastructure development of $745,000 for the 23 fiscal year. Statement number 3. Mr. Speaker, on November the 8th, 2023, Cabinet approved $600,000 to fund the 2023 National Community Enhancement Project NICE to run during December the 4th to the 15th, thereby increasing the appropriation PH4 Management of Public Recreational Facilities and Cemeteries under the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure to fund the program for 2023. Statement 4. Reallocation of funds with Section 50 of 2.67 of the Public Management Finance Act 2020 Revision 2023 December session of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, on August the 30th, Cabinet approved the NHDT to incorporate housing repairs as part of their mandate, thereby increasing their existing allocation under Equity Injection EI 57 National Housing Development Trust in the amount of $500,000 from the Executive Assets EA 161 submarine cable. This approval will have no impact on the government's forecast financial results and the position for the 2023 financial year, as this is merely just a reallocation of the appropriation of funds. Statement of Parliament of Cabinet, approval for the transfer of funds under Section 11.5, the PMFA 2020, the expansion of the Ednamoyle Primary School. Mr. Speaker, I rise before the Honourable House to report on the approval of the Cabinet pursuant of the Section 11.5, the Public Management Finance Act 2020 revision, merely to reduce the Ministry's Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development appropriation for the financial year 23, EA 161 submarine cable by $50,000 and increasing EI 12, the Ministry of Education appropriation for the financial year 2023 by $50,000. Mr. Speaker, statement to the Parliament to approval for the reallocation for the funding of the major road works and road infrastructure on December the 2023 session. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Public Management Finance Act 2020 revision, Cabinet approved the reallocation of funds for the funding of the major road works and infrastructure on two occasions. First, Mr. Speaker, there was an increase of $3 million to the budget allocated for EA 148 major road works, accompanied by a corresponding decrease of $3 million from the budget allocation EA 161 submarine cable. Likewise, we later increased EA 148 major road works in the amount of $2.4 million and decreased EA 161 submarine cable in the amount of $2.41. The necessary adjustments will ensure that our road infrastructure project remained on track and despite the project's financial shortfall. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Well done. I've also received notice of the intention to make a statement from the Honourable Deputy Governor.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, as required by Section 11.6 of the Public Management Finance Act, I make this statement to members of this Honourable House with respect to the exceptional circumstances transactions that were approved by the Cabinet for the Portfolio Civil Service for the period December 2023. Such transactions were approved pursuant to Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act. Mr. Speaker, this statement provides details of the aforementioned transactions. $577,500 funding for a one-off Christmas payment to pensioners. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Premier just gave some details, but just allow me to expand a bit. In December 2023, the government extended a one-time special payment of $250 for all persons receiving any form of public service pension. This one-off Christmas payment is being processed this month ahead of Christmas for all existing public service pensioners. Mr. Speaker, some 2,310 public service pensioners are benefiting from this one-off payment this month being processed by the Public Service Pension Board. Therefore, in accordance with Section 11.5 of the Public Management and Finance Act, the Cabinet authorized the addition of $577,500 for OE19 ex gratia recipients to plan payments. And a second, Section 5, Mr. Speaker, $160,280 for funding to increase uplift ex gratia payments from prior minimum of $950 to the new minimum of $1,250. Mr. Speaker, the portfolio second request for supplementary funding, which was approved by Cabinet, benefited eligible public service pensioners by uplifting the minimum pension amount from $950 to $1,250 effective December 2023. The eligibility criteria for receiving an uplifted pension is governed by the Public Service Pensions Ex Gratia Uplift Payments Regulations, and the recent amendment to these regulations, the Public Service Pensions Ex Gratia Uplift Payment Amendment Regulations, provides the new minimum uplift threshold of $1,250 for eligible persons. Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, the uplift came about as a result of private members' motion number 7 of 2023-2024, which was unanimously passed at the first meeting of the 2023-24 session of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, it has been the practice historically, where possible, to link the sums payable to those receiving long-term financial assistance to the sums payable as the minimum monthly pension for eligible pensioners who served at least 10 years before retiring. This funding helps ensure that Caymanians who worked for at least 10 years of pensionable service can live with dignity in retirement. By implementing the ex gratia uplift payment to public service pensioners, we effectively facilitated the government policy objectives of bringing equity between amounts paid to those on long-term financial assistance and the minimum sums paid to our long-serving Caymanian pensioners, ensuring that they can enjoy their retirement as comfortably as possible. Mr. Speaker, 589 public service pensioners qualified and are benefiting from the uplift that commenced in December via the program capably facilitated by the Public Service Pension Board. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the aforementioned exceptional circumstance transactions related to the initiatives that the government deemed paramount to maintaining the purchasing power for our pensioners. Both the ex gratia uplift and the one-off Christmas payment of $250 were requested and approved by Cabinet. The portfolio of the Civil Service and the Public Service Pension Boards are working collaboratively to deliver these payments in December 2023. Mr. Speaker, even with the inclusion of these unforeseen expenses, the government has maintained compliance with the principles of responsible financial management. I express gratitude to the government for their thoughtful support in addressing the various needs within our community. This particular instance underscores, Mr. Speaker, the government's unwavering commitment to assisting Caymanians' elderly population in mitigating the impact of inflation, which gained momentum in the summer of 2022. On behalf of public service pensioners, I extend my sincere thanks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Governor.
Government Business Bills, third reading, Appropriation Financial Years 2024 and 2025 Bill 2023.
I call on the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance to move the third reading of the Appropriation Financial Years 2023 and 2024 Bill 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that a bill which has been shortly entitled the Appropriation Financial Years 2024-2025 Bill 2023, as amended by the Finance Committee, be given a third reading and passed.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled the Appropriation Financial Years 2024 and 25 Bill 2023, as amended by Finance Committee, be read a third time and passed. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. The bill is accordingly passed. Madam Premier, before I call on you to move the adjournment of this Honorable House sine die, I just wish to first thank your good self and indeed all members of Parliament for the courtesy you have shown the chair over the course of this, my first meeting of Parliament. I also want to thank the Parliament staff led by the clerk for their courtesy to me and their steadfast courtesy and assistance to all members of Parliament. I want to wish for all of you within these chambers and all of you out with these chambers, in particular my constituents, a blessed Christmas season and a happy and prosperous New Year from all of us here in Parliament. Madam Premier, the adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the House, we graciously accept your kind Christmas greetings. It leaves for me to now move the adjournment of this Honourable House to be adjourned sine die.
The question is that this Honourable House do now adjourn sine die. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. Parliament is adjourned sine die.